I'm Graham Young, Senior EMS Operations Manager for Harbour Energy. I'm based in London in the UK, and really pleased to speak to you today. But the EMS is Enterprise Management Systems, and this is kind of a unique function in many companies in terms of it's really the glue between functions such as Rhine and the IT organization. And we're such a high growth, dynamic organization, and we need that capability to translate commercial organizational requirements quickly into robust technical organizational designs to execute quickly.
Thank you for having me as well. I'm Ryan Taylor. I am Global Head of Travel, and I work within the Corporate Supply Chain department, looking after strategic procurement and service delivery for anything related to travel, expense, corporate cards, etc.
What would you say was happening in the organization that led us to sort of start this work? Can you give us a little bit of a background of Harbour Energy and what was happening at that time?
Certainly. We can kind of roll back, though, even to 2014. So Harbour was basically formed then. So we're a little over 12 years old. And since then, we've grown exponentially from zero to one of the biggest independent oil and gas companies. And why that's particularly relevant is because that trajectory of exponential growth requires it creates a lot of problems, and a lot of opportunities and challenges. And that growth trajectory where we cover 11 countries, as I said, almost 500,000 barrels a day production, 40% gas, 40% oil based in Europe, and then the rest around the world. We need three key levers to essentially keep on this trajectory. So the first one is financial discipline, and we wanted to team up with a company that gave the transparency into how much a transformation would cost, and secondly, what that could contribute to the bottom line. And that's something we're passionate about in Harbour Energy. The second one is about exploiting scale, but also being diverse in terms of where we have our assets. So where we have, let's say, capability to cluster together processes and activities, standardise, it's something we want to lean on heavily, but also have a diversity of portfolio that gives us the highest return. And then finally, we want to be reliable, but also, let's say, have robust returns. So in all parts of the cycle, we have a high quality portfolio that generates a return regardless of let's say the commodity market at the time. And so with all those in mind, we needed to look for a partner to help us with that, pulling those levers in sequence to give us value.
Well, Ryan, we know that TNE was sort of the first project pilot, you want to say, using this approach. What would you say were some of the challenges that you and your team were personally facing and felt like that was the place for us to start?
Yeah, I think so. My role was created a year and a half ago, and I came in to transform travel. The program hadn't grown with the organization, and there was a lot of suppliers, different ways of doing things, very inconsistent. And the business recognized that we need to have a program because a lot of our people have to travel to support operations and support the growth of the organization. We had processes, but they were all inconsistent. And one of the biggest things for me and the team is safety has always got to be at the forefront of everything that we do. So we have to make sure that our travelers are safe when they're traveling and they're returned home safely. But for me also, it needs to be a seamless process, and travel isn't people's job day to day. It's an enabler to let them to do their job. And we wanted to go and look at how can we simplify things. We went out to bid for a new travel management company, and what I didn't want was to just lift and shift what we done today. I wanted to really understand how do we do it, And we don't have that capability to do that within my team. So with engaging Graham and his team, I was really interested to look at, I've inherited travel, expense, corporate card. I really don't know how it all comes together. And I would really want an outside set of eyes looking in and helping us. What does good look like? And that's where the conversation started at. I want to be interrogated as to why do we do this today? And then have a real simple process that when we move to our new travel provider and our new technology, it's very simplistic for our people and they get home safely at the end of the day.
Well, if we look back at in terms of how the project was run, is there any sort of key things or events that you guys can recall that you think would be worth sharing?
Yeah, I can start with that. Well, I think it's always, I think, a jump into the unknown to both select another partner. So bpmd were, I think, new to Harbour, and also this kind of methodology was something new to Harbour as well, going from a kind of acquisition heavy strategy where things are, let's say, not too much strategic intent on some of the projects. It's just getting it done, to more of a long-term planning and being systematic about the, let's say, the strategy of the category, the key requirements there, the drivers there, and then planning that into a project that was quite new. But what I think worked really well in the engagement was the groundwork done by bpmd in terms of asking us what our pain points were, what were the key business drivers, where we were. We didn't jump just on the first opportunity. We did some scouting. We looked at finance. We looked at procurement, some of the areas, and we found that an area, the most demand, the most passion, where we could make a almost instant impact, where we had real ownership, was in the travel and expense space. So that they were kind of some of the criteria we took in before embarking on this activity.
And Ryan, is there any sort of particular things that you can recall from our engagement within the expenses space that you would say you would be proud of standing here now when the project is close to its final phase?
I think the big thing that stood out for me is we have a global expense system, but we have so many different processes. So from our point of view at the corporate center, we assume that it's all working the same in every other market. And actually, through the engagement with you guys, we've got 33 different processes on how we actually process expenses. And that, for me, I didn't look at that as anything negative. I looked at that as, this is something that we can really make a difference, make a change, streamline it, and show the organization how more efficient we can be. So it's not, initially people would think, well, this is a negative because we've got all of these different, it's actually, it gives us something to go and get after and make a real difference too. So that's probably the one thing that has really stood out for me, is we think that because we have a global expense system, online booking tools, etc., that we're doing it all the same. And it was just eye-opening but exciting on, well, this is what we do today, but how can we translate that into what does good look like? And that's been a big thing for me with bpmd and working with you guys on looking at, I had a vision of what a target operating model would look like, but then you guys would, in a good way, interrogate, why are you doing it like that? To the point where I then looked at, okay, we will do things differently then, because there's certain things that we can change on recommendations and things from yourselves, that I think now we're coming towards the end of putting this in practice, is going to have a huge benefit to the organization and to the users of the program.
Well, you touched on a really important part at the end there. One aspect of it is identifying what's wrong. How confident are we moving forward that sort of those improvement initiatives that we've identified will stick?
I think because we're now at implementation mode of the new agency, what we have done, and again, as I said at the start, I didn't want to just lift and shift to a new provider. What we've taken, and we've done a lot of workshops as well with the new travel provider and a lot of internal stakeholders as well. And we've built now, so we went out to bid with a scope of what we were looking for from a travel management company. We've had to slightly change that. But we've now given them a model that they can, basically we've given them the process up front of how we want our model to look like. And they can build the technology, they can build their internal policies and processes to support the Harbour account on that basis of what we've got. But also, I think another thing for us is because we engaged with all of our business units, we let them have a say on how that model looks like. And for me, that has always been important. I'm not running a travel program that from the corporate center, we just dictate this is how it is. I really wanted to get an understanding on what works, what doesn't work. And I think from taking everyone's feedback and putting that on paper with you guys and looking at those processes, I think we've got a really robust setup that we can now implement. And because everyone around the globe have been involved in it, they will be supportive of the change that we're doing as well.
Amazing. And Graham, I'd like to touch on the fact what we were referencing off camera around the DAP and digital adoption platforms. So from an EMS perspective, what do you see the potential of that moving forward within Harbour in initiatives like TNE and other areas that you guys may be working on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We've invested quite heavily in the tool chain, which is SAP products that help with transformation. So from bpmd's like expertise in Signavio, which is capturing and modeling and managing processes. But just on a side note, the process mining activity done by bpmd, we found that it's not only showing quantitative data, but also putting some I would call fun into it, and making it catchy. So the acronym STOP, I think we used in TNE, where you could just put raw data in front of stakeholders, and it may not resonate, but saying, we're over processing. There's too many people involved, and so you're using those acronyms. And I see we have another one called SPIN for HR. That's memorable, and I really feel that there's probably a lot of initiatives that maybe don't stick because it's just it's unmemorable. It's hard to relate to. So that's kind of one. I think we noticed a difference with in terms of working with bpmd. We're I think making movements in the tool chain, as I said, with WalkMe, which is as you said, digital adoption platform, and this is really from a paperclip in the old days of showing how to use Word. Can I help you with the next step? To really helping end users, funneling them down the right path where they have multiple choices to make, and making sure that they follow the happy path, the correct path in those transactions. And we can also then, so as they follow the right and correct path, also understand what's happening behind those steps and processes and get insights there. So it helps with instant adoption of changes that we make, but also gives us insights into maybe where there's frictions in our processes and where we can support more and improve better. So that's definitely one of the parts of the tool chain we're currently going to deploy.
And once again, thank you so much for you guys' time coming here and sharing your views. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Subi. It was a pleasure.